Hi guys! Since you all took all of those fabulous photos at the Heritage Center, we probably should do something with them, right? So we are going to work on a little Photoshop project to put some of them together into kind of an interesting little composition. So instead of just having you submit them in just the plain old regular way, we're going to do something with them. So if you are familiar with Andy Warhol, he created pop art, and that's what we're looking at right here. So this is these are just examples of some of his artwork. Some of this artwork I think is just inspired by his work. But we are going to create something that is similar to this sort of look and feel with the bright colors and sort of the gridded repetition of an image. So there's that, just so you know where we're going with this. So what we're going to do is going to create a new document. So just file new. And the size of it will be 6 inches square. So let's change that to inches. So 6 inches by 6 inches. Resolution we will set to 300 pixels per inch. Color mode will be RGB. And hit create. And there we go. I'm going to just zoom out just a little bit. So I'm going to hit Control and the minus sign. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to grid out our workspace so that we are able to divide it up evenly. And what you can do is if you hit Control R on your keyboard, those rulers pop up. Notice if I hit Control R again, they'll go away. Control R, they're back. What I can do with those is I can just click in that area and pull down and drop a line, and those are guides. So I can do that from either side, and that's what we're essentially going to make here, but we're going to do it a little bit more precisely. So I can still rearrange these and move these around if I wanted to. And you can sort of figure out the right spot to put them in, but it's a little bit easier and you can be a little bit more accurate when you do this a different way. So I'm just going to clear the guides, and now I'm going to place my guides in exactly the right spots. So I'm just going to go to View and New Guide. So we'll start with the horizontal ones. We're going to put a guide at 2 inches and 4 inches. So like I said, we're going to divide this up into a grid, and that grid is going to be 9 equal squares. So to do that, we'll set grid lines at 2 and 4 inches, both horizontally and vertically. So I got both of my horizontal ones, I'm good there. Now I'm going to put in my vertical ones, so 2 inches and 4 inches. Almost done. Last one here. So 4 inches. There we go. Now I have my big square, which is my document, divided up into 9 equal squares. So now we're good. So now I'm going to start placing my images. I have 2 options here for placing images. I can do place embedded, which increases the size of this file exponentially. I'm going to keep the size down just a little bit by hitting this place linked, and that just essentially links to the image that is housed elsewhere on your computer. So I'll just choose my first image here, and my computer is running super slow. Let's see if it'll let me do that. I guess it will. Okay, so we'll start with that image. Maybe. Sorry. We're having computer problems here, apparently. Okay, so there we go. Now it popped up. Okay, so there's my image. I placed it into my document, and now I'm just going to, oh, I hope you don't have problems like this. This computer is just running so slow today. Okay, so I'm going to resize it a little bit. In order to do that, I hold down the Shift key and I pull from a corner. That way I'm constraining the proportions and I'm not distorting it. Remember, if you pull from a side, even if you're holding down the Shift key, you can distort it. Okay, so make sure you hold down the Shift key and pull from a side. For this project, it's not going to matter a ton if it gets distorted, but just keep that in mind for future reference. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, or there was a check mark on the top. I'll show you that when I do another image here. I'm going to resize that down just a little bit farther. We'll go about there. Okay, and there we go. Now if you notice, my image is pretty well constrained within my little square here that I'm using. On this side, these sides, it comes outside of that square. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to delete these extra pixels out of here. So to do that, what I'm going to do is select my rectangular marquee tool And now I'm just going to, actually I'll start on this side because then it makes it a little bit easier. If I try to click outside of there, it wants to try to sort of snap to those grid lines, which is nice, and that's why we set them up that way. So if you start out here, right on top of that grid line, it'll snap it to the grid line. So there we go. I'm just selecting this whole area, and hopefully you can see, let's zoom in just a little bit. You can see that I am selecting just the area that is contained within my grid lines. So I'll zoom out again. So now I have that area selected. I actually want to delete everything but this area. So what I'm going to do is hit Control Shift I, and that is also accessible from this select and inverse. That's what we're doing. So we just inverted our selection right there. So I have it inverted, and now I want to delete these pixels. So I have all of these extra pixels deleted. I'll hit the delete button, and it won't let me do it because it says it's a smart object and it's not directly editable, which is okay. I'll hit OK. A quick way to do this, to make it editable, is to grab your eraser tool, click on your object anywhere, actually, it will be fine, and you just want to hit OK and rasterize it. That's the way I usually do it. I think that that's probably the easiest way. So there we go. I just hit delete, and now I have all of those extra little pixels deleted. So now all I have left from my image is the part in that little square. So I'll hit Command D to deselect. Okay, now I'm set with that one. It's at the right size. I'm just going to use my, well, I don't even need my move tool. I'm good there. I was going to move it around, but I think it's good. The next thing that I'm going to do now is make sure that you're on the right layer. I'm on my little chain link layer there. I'm going to go just up here in my layers palette. Notice I'm in the layers palette. Up here, these little lines in the upper right hand corner, I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to hit Convert to Smart Object. That's helpful because when we apply our filters later, that is not going to affect the actual image. It is non-destructive at this point. If I would not have converted it to a smart object, I wouldn't be able to go back and make any changes to this layer. It will sort of permanently attach the filter to the layer, and that will make more sense in just a minute here. So what we're going to do now with this image is we're going to go up here to Filter and Filter Gallery. Notice I'm not choosing this first one. I'm choosing this one right down here. So click on that, and now I pop up my filter gallery, which is really cool. There's lots of fun stuff in there, and you can play with this kind of stuff for hours and hours. But what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of decide which one of these we want. And you can choose any of these at this point because you're going to use pretty much all of them at some point. So you can play around with these a little bit. You can play with the settings. Notice as I drag these sliders around, it changes how the image looks. Okay, maybe that one wouldn't be the best for this image, so I'll choose a different one, and I will drag these sliders around until I get something that has some detail to it, but not a ton of detail, and then I'll hit OK. Notice the colors that were in that are in my image now. They are taken directly from my foreground and background colors right here. So make sure that you set those before you go into your filter gallery. Okay, so let's do one more. So now this one is all done. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next one. And notice that it did get distorted a lot, and you can't tell exactly what it is anymore, but that's kind of the look we're going for in this project. Okay, so I'm going to go to File and Place Linked. We'll place one more. Let's see, we'll do this. I don't know if this is a perfume bottle or whatever this was. Yep, perfume. So I took this in one of the display cases at the Heritage Center. And this one will get cropped quite a bit just because of the proportions of the image, but that's no big deal. So I'll hit enter, and actually I don't even need to crop out those extra pixels out of this one because you're not going to see them. They go off the edge of my image. So don't worry about that. So that one's good like that. My next step is to hit this in my layers palette, this little menu in the top right hand corner with the little lines. Click that and hit Convert to Smart Object. Okay, so now again we're good. We can go to our filter gallery, but first we need to change these colors. You could make all of these images based with the same colors essentially, but what's the fun in that, right? And the idea behind pop art is lots of really bright colors, so that's kind of what we'll go for here too. Let's see, and choose whatever colors. I'm going to choose different ones in each of the squares, so I'll probably hit every color eventually pretty much. Okay, so again, hit filter. Do not choose this first one because that will just apply the same filter as what I did with the first one, okay? Actually, you can do that. It pops up with the whole menu. I was thinking that it just automatically applied that. So actually, you can hit it either one. There you go. I just learned something. Okay, so choose a different filter this time and just play around with the options here until you get your image kind of how you like it. Hit OK, and there we go. Now we got another one in there. So continue to do that until you get all 8 of these squares finished. When I say 8, I mean the ones around the outside. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This one is going to be filled with a rectangle and some text. So you get all those images in there, and then we'll go pretend I have all of mine there. I'll show you one that's all completely finished in just a minute. So now I'm going to choose the rectangle tool, and I will choose my color. I don't particularly like that yellow color, so let's choose a different one. You can go light or dark. Just keep in mind that when you are, we'll go dark. When you are adding your text, we'll have to make sure there's some contrast there so it's visible. So I'm just going to click in this area actually, and now I can create my rectangle. I'll make it 2 inches by 2 inches and hit OK. Okay, there's my rectangle. You could also create that rectangle. I'll show you one more way to create that rectangle. I could create it by clicking and dragging out a rectangle. Then I have to try to sort of get the size accurate. So I will just go with that first one. So all I did was click, and then a pop-up window came up, and I just type in my size that I want there, hit OK. I'm going to undo that one. So anyway, to finish your image, we're just going to put a rectangle right here, and then, oops, let's click out of, I'm going to click out here, because otherwise it wanted to add my text to my rectangle, and I don't want that. I'm just going to type in this box, I'll type North Dakota, let's see, what is it called? North Dakota Heritage Center and State Museum. That's technically the title of that place. So I'm going to change the color of my text. Click on that, and in my character palette, or right here, I can change the text, or right here, there's lots of different ways to change it. I'll make it white. And there we go. Well, it's close to white, not exactly white. It doesn't fit in that square, so I'm going to drag this size down just a little bit. And I'm actually going to change this so that this pops down. There. And there we go. There's my text. I'll show you one that I finished just a little while ago with all of those images in there and edited and all that fun stuff. So if you notice here, I have 8 different images with 8 filters applied to them using different colors, and some of the colors are fairly similar, some are not. So just vary it up a little bit. Lots of variety in the colors and the filter gallery. And you can play with this text if you want a little bit. So do whatever you need to do there. Okay, so save your image. Go to File, Save As. So you're going to save it as a Photoshop document, a PSD. And remember, save it as your first name, last name, collage, and hit Save. But you don't have to submit the PSD file. You can submit a JPEG, and that will make the file size go down just a little bit. So go ahead and File and Save As and choose JPEG. And then submit that one. Okay, that's it. All right, good luck.